Hey, Frieza!
When I get my hands on...
Can it really be true?
My wife said she needed some pets, so I got a fish and 2 cats. So how did I acquire this sword? I actually saw it on Facebook, and I hit LK immediately, and I was like, man, that sword is really beautiful. I can't wait for that to be out. And he was like, well, hey, how about I send it to you? You talk about it in the US. And I was like, awesome. I'm the first guy in the US to own it. That rocks. I obviously paid for it. He didn't send it to me for free. But he sent it to DLATREX because he's the guy who is doing all the graphs for the weight and the mathematics of the sword. And it was really nice of him to hold on to that for me and to test it out a little bit and to put me on his channel. I'm actually on his channel. We had a joint collab review for this sword, so you can go over to his channel and check me out flailing around armor with this thing. So about the sword, well, the first thing we notice is that striking red lacquered scabbard. They usually, I don't even think they've ever done this on a sword just yet, and I find it to be a very beautiful choice. It's a pro if you want a beautiful sword and to show it off to your sword friends, but it's also a con if you do reenactment and you actually want to cut and you want to, you know, play with it a little bit. You know, I'd be afraid of really banging that up. I don't really take it out much because of that, but I'm still happy to have it. The bar that runs along the top is really pretty and unique. I love the holes here that have these Ming cloud designs. Now, my bar right here is a little bent, but it really doesn't make it work any less. So, I mean, it's okay. Still looks really beautiful, and I can appreciate the craftsmanship that LK CHEN has been putting into their swords lately. But I actually really like the design for the end of the scabbard because it gives it space, it rapidly curves, gives the clip tip space so it doesn't rattle, bang in there too much, and get dulled by the inside of the scabbard. I mean, the way this one is done is just very beautiful. So I'm not sure how sturdy scabbards were historically, but I think LK CHEN could benefit from sturdier scabbards. And that's just me as a reenactor that wants to wear the swords regularly and play with them a lot. Now, how tough were scabbards historically? We don't know. Maybe that, you know, these are a good reproduction of what they would have been like, because it really depends on the conflict or what type of soldier we're talking about here for what kind of grade of weaponry they would have. I think a lot of like infantry, they wouldn't even have a scabbard. I think a lot of them would just carry the sword and shield into battle, and who knows where the scabbard is. And also they were just discarded in battle too. I mean, you give this thing a good tug off your belt, you know, the hook's coming off and everything, throw the scabbard, get to fighting. It's really simple. So I don't know if they're really built to last a very long time, but they're built to just hold the sword until you really, really need it, and then you can get a new one. Now, at first glance, this guard doesn't really look that special compared to other companies or even LK CHEN's own swords. But we take a little flip, bam, 2 sleeping leopards. Now that really surprises me that a 17th century sword would have such craftsmanship. But you go and look at their site or on their Facebook, you see that this is based off a real antique. And that leads me to believe that this wasn't a soldier's sword. This must have been someone with a lot of money, because, you know, this kind of design is crazy, man. And also, it has that upturn, you know, kind of cup guard on it to give it more rigidity, more constitution, more... It could take more stuff. It could take a lot of beating to it. It makes it a little bit sturdier without making it necessarily heavier. You know, you just turn it up, and then, you know, you're not having the sword hit directly right on the guard, but on these raised parts. So, you know, it makes it a little bit tougher. But I have to say, out of everything on this sword, my favorite part is the handle. I mean, the black wrap, black ray skin, this floral cap for the lanyard, the square style fittings. I mean, it really comes together super well. That is really pretty. And the handle is actually longer than my Chijai Yao Dao. And it actually kind of moves more like a Jian than a Dao, I guess. At least from my experience of handling Jians and Daos. You know, this one's very nimble. You know, it's very light. I feel like it can be used very, very similarly to a Jian. And that's adding on to my theory that this was for a very wealthy person, someone that's connected to a scholar sword or scholar culture, I mean, and really enjoys maybe older style blades, which is why it's straight and has that smaller tip on it, and it's very light. You know, it's a dueling kind of maybe self-protection. It just seems very nice, very pretty, something that someone with a lot of money would have. Now on to the fun part. All right, take a look at that, man. That is beautiful. I mean, the first thing that really pops out to me is the fullers. We have 3 fullers. We have one large one in the middle and then 2 smaller ones on the side. And we also see like these 3 indentions, which I've seen on West Asian swords. And I mean, there was a lot of inspiration in the Ming Dynasty from West Asian culture or Central Asian culture, and even like Japanese culture. China was really taking everything in and inspiring everybody else at the same time, man. But you know, it's super light, and you just don't expect a sword like this for something that's supposed to be banging on shields and armor, you know? I mean, and also just look how thin that is. Look at the taper on it. Wow. Very characteristic of Ming swords. And, you know, that clip tip, I'm not exactly sure, like, if that's there to puncture mail or to get through armor better. Because if we look at DLATREX's test between the Youngling Dao and the Sharkhead Dao, pardon me, oh, I had pizza. But if we see the test that DLATREX did between the Sharkhead Dao and the Chijia, or the Youngling Dao, the Youngling Dao was able to puncture a lot easier than this sword. And I think that this kind of tip was there just to reduce weight. Or, you know, I really don't know what else it could be there for, because the Youngling Dao, it's built for soldiering. It's a heavy, thick blade that I feel like could really hurt somebody even in armor. And this one, just the way it feels, the way it looks, the balance, it feels scholarly. And I'm gonna hold to that, you know. I really don't think that I would feel comfortable taking this into a battle. But I would carry it every day, you know. It's light, it's pretty, I can show it off to everyone I want to flex on and take it to court. It's just it's a good conversation piece. It's a good sword for someone with a lot of money and they want to flex on all the broke boys. And also, I didn't really say this, but the one thing I really enjoy about the copy they sent me is that it has pattern steel. I don't know if you can really see that, but super beautiful. I mean, man, I just love this sword. They really, really outdid themselves on this, at least in my case, because I liked a nimble, you know, feeling sword to where I can jump around and do a lot of fun stuff with, and this one definitely gives you that. I actually like to compare the 2 lightest swords LK Chen has at the moment. If I can get those in camera. Oh, here, let me scoot back a little bit. See if I can get both of them in camera. There we go. So yeah, I mean, these are the lightest swords that they have out right now. Both Daos, and I don't know, man. This one feels a tad bit heavier. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe because it's in my left hand and this hand's stronger. But yeah, this one's a little bit longer. So it has, you know, you're a little bit more nimble with it than this one. This one's definitely a hacker. But they're both really awesome. I mean, they're good light cutters, man. They really are. And also, if you notice this one, it's wider at the base and it actually curves a little forward. So it does have a little curve in it, even though it has a straight back. This one, I think this one's actually straight for the first half of it, and then it starts to curve. But still, you know, really cool that we see the differences of swords in the Ming Dynasty. I mean, These are very similar, but also very different. I don't know if they really perform incredibly differently, you know, though. I mean, they're both thin, single-edged swords. The curvature, I think, would probably work better on horseback. Like, this one would probably be for more on foot, this one on horseback. That would be my guess. But you might have a question, like, why is it straight, you know? I thought a lot of Daos in the Ming Dynasty were curved. Well, we see a lot of Dao actually are straight for like the first half, or maybe even a little bit more, and then they start to accelerate towards the last third. I don't think a lot of them were like entirely curved. Like even with my crossbowman's Dao back there, it's still relatively straight, and then it comes into a curve. So I think it just depends on the region. You know, you can't really just say, oh, the Ming Dynasty had this kind of sword. It's like, dude, China's freaking huge. It's going to have different swords in every different part of China. I mean, obviously there was a like literati class that had like their own specific wants and needs. But again, it's probably based on where they're at too. Like southern China probably has different designs than northern China. And where this came from, I don't know. I actually don't know where they got the antique. But, you know, there's going to be straight and curved swords all over China during this time. So try not to get caught up in like exact ideas of what their swords are like. Now that there were ones that were standard or popular, like I would say during the Ming Dynasty, the Yangling Dao was standard. Swords of that kind of style, at least for soldiers. Now this has just got to be for someone with a lot of money. Now, can you fight with it in armor? Absolutely. Hey guys, so this armor would be specifically used in the Ming Dynasty from the mid to late 15th century to the early 17th century. Now, this kind of armor wouldn't be normal for every kind of soldier, just like how a fully armored samurai or a knight wouldn't be a good representation of every soldier on the battlefield, right? I would really like to make a review of this armor. It's just that the company I got it from is from China, and there's a big tariff war going on right now, and I really don't want to be the reason this company gets a lot of returns. But if you still want to see a review, please let me know. When we fight with a single-handed sword in this kind of harness, we have to keep in mind not to go too high up, because that allows us to forget that big thing on top of our head. And we don't want to go behind our head because, you know, that prong on top won't allow it. So it's good to focus on keeping the sword in front of you. And don't worry about keeping it behind or too high or trying to do any fancy kung fu moves, because it will mess you up, especially if you're in a large formation and you're using a single-handed saber. An illustration of Yu Daio's formation show soldiers with this style of helmet as foot soldiers. So it makes me wonder, how often was this used for foot soldiers and how often was it used for cavalry? Either way, there is going to be some adjustment when you fight with this kind of sword and this kind of helmet. Ready when you are. Okay. So the bifu here, or the lobster arm armor, I feel like it's a very good piece of adjustable protection for different scenarios. So what we see is these were mostly employed for cavalry units, but that doesn't mean that they were attached to their horse. You know, they could get off and fight, and we do see paintings of armored soldiers with the bifu getting off their horse and fighting with a single-handed saber. You know, and it makes me wonder though, like how often were these used? How expensive were these? Probably very expensive, because this is the highest quality plate armor we see in the Ming Dynasty, besides the full plate harness, which again, we don't know how often that was used. But, you know, I wonder how many soldiers were able to afford it, because for the most part, we see regular soldiers with a kettle helmet and a brigandine of some kind. Most of them didn't have very long brigandine, but we do see that. I think a lot of them would just have, you know, a little bit to right here, not going all the way down to the knees. But yeah, like, it just makes me wonder exactly what was the standard for the everyday soldier, and I think it was just that short brigandine with the kettle helmet, nothing more. So this would be more contemporary to like a knight. The brigandine is very comfy and adjustable and all that, and I think armored fighting is very cool, but I just don't think that this saber was used for armored fighting. I think that the way the tip looks, how it's short, reinforced, and how the blade is straight. You know, I see this as someone who enjoyed ancient culture, had wealth, and needed a very quick sword. Something that was very similar to a Jian, possibly, because he was wealthy. So, you know, this seems like a rich guy going to court, bringing his very nice, almost ancient styled sword that can perform like a Jian, like a real bureaucrat. So, you know, I think that this was used for civilian carry. You know, this guy did not go into battle with this. Now, the Yangling Dao, that Dao is able to puncture a lot better. It's able to cut a lot better. It's something that's able to withstand wartime a lot more than this. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I just see it not as effective for soldiers compared to the Yangling Dao. So why would you want this compared to that standard? And I think it's for a very rich fella showing off his wealth and having a sword that's very quick that he can fight with. So that's my opinion. So now, would I recommend this sword? Well, it really depends on what you want out of it, or a sword. So I think if you want to do Taolu and just have fun and cut, you know, this is a really cool sword, man. I really enjoy it. And even for historical reenactment, I mean, if you want to get like your official robes on, get a nice Hanfu going, and you want to supplement it with a really beautiful Ming sword, I really think that this one would be the go-to. But, you know, if you're going to be out doing reenactment and you're going to be fumbling around with other fellas out there and all that, I really wouldn't want to mess up this sword at all. But, you know, still really good. I mean, get you a rougher one for rougher stuff. But, I mean, definitely worth having it in the collection if you enjoy cutting and just flexing. It's very nice. So sadly, I cannot test this sword or any of my other swords out on armor just yet. So if you do want to see some crazy antics and tests in the future, I really, really want to request that you guys check out my book, Dynam, D-Y-N-A-M, ! On mangadex.org. It's completely free to read. It's a whole volume, over 200 pages of historical fiction. It's aesthetically Ming Dynasty. It's not during that time period. It's a little bit after, but it's the tale of the scholar and the warrior through that time period's lens. And I think that kind of idea is very important for us practitioners, to do our best to be well read and to be well versed in these techniques enough, or other kind of martial techniques, to protect ourselves and the people we love. Now, why do I say that would help me if you guys read it if it's free? I mean, I think it would really help get my name out there, my art, my writing, and my appreciation for Chinese history. I think that's really cool, man. I want to do this more. I want to be able to try out historical reenactment more, to really understand what it was like in that time period, at least for a soldier, as close as I can. I don't know why that really entices me, but it does. It's really cool. That, and also, like, I'd love to just write more and draw more and to make that my career. And if you guys really like it, I'd really appreciate it if you supported me, because I want to do my best to come out with a Patreon, a website. I'm working on those right now. And I'll be able to make a whole bunch more cool stuff for you guys to enjoy. And, you know, I'll be able to support my family and myself off of something I really enjoy. And that's something I want more than anything in this world, because I know everybody has to work jobs they hate or they dislike here and there. But, you know, to be fortunate enough to do something I love and to provide for my family on that would be a dream come true. And I hope that I can at least give you guys enough cool stuff in order for me to deserve that. But yeah, you know, check out my book, man. Check out my animations. I'm coming out with more animations. And let's have a drink together. All right. Ganbei! So thank you guys for checking this out. I hope you really enjoy this video, and I hope that you pick up this sword if you really want to. Thank you.